Okay, egg rolls. There is a recipe, and I loosely use it. But what you need to know is you need cabbage. This is a fairly large one, but we eat them for several days off and on. Then 4 stalks of celery, 5 green onions. I prefer the little tiny ones, and if they're the real tiny ones, then I'll probably do a couple extra. But for the good sized green onions, 5 is good. We do 2 pounds of ground pork. It usually comes as a 1 pound package. Go ahead and get a couple of them. Now, these are the bean sprouts, but I bought them several days ago, and these go in the trash. They need to be white, okay? So it's no big deal to leave them out. They're an optional kind of deal. This option is to toss them. Alright, now with your food processor, you're going to use this one. Also comes with this one for grating stuff. I use it pretty much just for grating cheese, but so that's one we're going to use. Now, put your lid on, you lock it, come off. Now whenever I grind up the bean sprouts when I have them, I make sure and put them in with like the onions, because they really smell horrible whenever you're chopping them up. But other than that, go ahead and cut your onions up, not too fine. Go ahead and drop them in there, maybe put in a stalk of celery or 2. Alright, and you're going to chop them up. So while I'm chopping this stuff up, we're going to pause it so that it doesn't bust your ears.
And mine.
Okay. You don't want it really fine, but you do want it a good chopped consistency because you're going to cook it. So, I mean, this is it. Go ahead and in between the different vegetables, I'll go ahead and dump it out. This is my Tupperware spatula, which is my favorite. I can't find another one that's just like it. I don't think Tupperware sells them anymore. So, alright, then you're going to do your cabbage. Now, the cabbage can be in big chunks because you're going to grind it up. Watch the fingers. I usually go ahead and cut off and then chop it from there. Now this one, like I said, it's kind of large, and if it's too big and more than I want, then I will put the extra in the sugar glider cage. But I think what I'll do is I'll save this piece right here for them to munch on. They'll enjoy that. So just put it in chunks in here. It'll take a couple of times depending on the size of your food processor. I think mine's maybe an 8 cup.
Stop it.
Alright, pause it for now. This last one I'm going to go ahead and leave the processor, the camera on, so you can see about how long it takes to get just to the consistency you want it. You can get up in these little dregs and go ahead and dump them in there too. It's going to allow for just a second. And that's about all it takes to get it nice and chopped where you want it. Now these things are sharp. Don't cut yourself. Go ahead and scrape this last thing out, and you put the processor off to the side and get ready for the wok. Move this out of the way. All right. Oh, crap, cooking over. first thing you're going to do is you're going to cook the meat. You want to get it totally white. You're going to add just a little bit of oil to your pot. Whether it's an electric wok or a on-stove wok, I don't think it really matters. I've always used an electric. It's what I learned to make lo mein and egg rolls and all in, and I've been doing it for a lot of years. So I just kind of, the next one I'm getting, I'm hoping will last me a good long time. This one probably had 5 or 6 years, maybe a little bit longer. Go ahead and put the pork in. On the stove, you're going to want to start about medium, high. Don't want it too high. Go ahead and break it up. Now, if you find a good Chinese turner, I mean, they're kind of curved, kind of like this. This one's very old, needs to be replaced. Alright, we're going to go ahead and pause it for this to brown, and then when we add the vegetables, we'll start back up. We'll show you what it looks like once the meat's cooked, because it doesn't take very long to finish it up after you add the vegetables. So go ahead and pause it. Okay, you want to be sure all the pink, red, whatever is out. You don't want to have any. You want the pork to be completely done. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to dump the vegetables in there with the meat. Now what I do that a lot of restaurants don't is they have a lot more vegetables than they do meat. I mean, it looks like a lot of vegetables, but once you get it all mixed up and cooked, looks like a lot more meat than you'd think. Now the other thing, the other really important thing is you've got to have a good sweet and sour sauce or duck sauce that you like. Now the only brand we like is Tai Ling. That's Tai Ling. This is duck sauce. Haven't been able to find sweet and sour sauce lately. It's getting harder to find. The difference is most of them are made with like a tomato base or a vinegar base, whatever. These are made with an apricot base, which makes it a very sweet sauce. So it's a particular favorite. Now you're going to mix this up really good. You're going to cook it for about 2 minutes before we add the cornstarch and the salt and the soy sauce. Now I don't measure really. I'll use the teaspoon, but just kind of depending on the original recipe is how I figure out what I'm going to use. Now the original recipe is actually for a ½ pound of ham or ½ pound of ground pork. Let's see, they also put shrimp in it, a ½ a head of cabbage, 2 handfuls of bean sprouts, and they also put an MSG. Now I don't put an MSG because I never know if I'm going to have somebody over or somebody's going to want some that is allergic to it. And it doesn't last long enough anyway around here for us to need MSG. That's just, it's a favorite. We'll eat them for meals. I'll eat them for breakfast. Best thing to serve with them is Mama's sweet and sour pork. That's another video, but that'll be a private video because that's a red recipe. That's one that we do not share outside the family. Excuse me. Oh, bless me. Certain recipes in the family are like that, and sweet and sour pork happens to be one of them. It's one that my mom came across 30 plus years ago and has perfected it until it is totally awesome. Now the salt called for about a teaspoon of salt, but since we've quadrupled the meat and everything else, I'll usually add about 2, maybe 2.5 teaspoons of salt. Don't want it too salty, considering that You're gonna have all the soy sauce too. Cornstarch called for 2 teaspoons of cornstarch with it, because what you want to do is help dry up some of that liquid. So I usually do about 3 of them. That's not going to affect it or the taste one way or the other. No big deal. And you want to mix that up really good. Now, the way that I know that I'm happy with how much soy we add is the color and the smell. After you've done them a few times and you know what you like, you'll be able to simply tell from the smell if it's what you want. So I think the original recipe called for like a tablespoon of soy, so I generally add probably about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Kikkoman's is the only brand I like. That's just me. Mix that up really good. Alright, you see that nice pale brown color? That's what you want. Just a real nice apparently Esme doesn't want a cooking lesson today. She just wants out. So after that, what you're going to do is you are going to drain the liquid. I generally just take my big bowl, my colander, and drain it out. It takes a few minutes and doing it handful by handful, simply because, or spoonful by spoonful, because it's kind of heavy to dump. So after you drain, it's got to cool off. I'll put it in the fridge for an hour, so let it cool off really good. And then we will show you how to wrap them and fry them. And keep in mind, whenever you fry them, all you're doing is cooking the wrapper and warming the insides up, because the only thing that's not cooked, naturally, is the wrapper. When you buy the wrappers from the store, make sure to check the date. Have been known to pick up some that have expired, and don't care to do that. So, when I say spoonful by spoonful, all I mean is literally spoonful by spoonful to drain until it's not so heavy. Alright, next place is the fridge, and then we'll wrap.